Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Deez, this is my workshop, and today we're going to continue the build of the finger engine, the N.A.M.E.S model engine finger engine build. It's an engine that's powered by your finger. Pretty simplistic, right? Today's going to be part 2. We're going to continue on with some of the parts, but before we get started, we were able to visit the Indiana Model Engine Show in Auburn, Indiana. Got some buttons here. This is a really cool show. I knew about Stirling engines and model engines and hit and miss engines and just small things, but I was never really researched it. There's a lot to learn. Now that I've kind of connected with Aaron Kohler from the club up there in Auburn, Indiana, that area, I started looking into this, and there is a lot to learn. I'm a bit overwhelmed. There's so many different engines that you can build out there. It really is amazing. I'm going to start slow. I really like just the hobby machining aspect of what I do in this workshop. I like to make things. I like to fix things. I like to make tools, toolmaker stuff. But model engines have a lot of the same things, the components to make those engines you use these machines to make. So at the moment, I'm making this finger engine. So this is part 2 of that finger engine. And we're going to continue on and hopefully complete this thing in no more than 3 videos. Before we sign off of this intro, I was also able to pick up some flywheels at the model engine show. These are cast by a vendor up there selling these. And after I had already started this finger engine and I made my own flywheel out of just a piece of aluminum that I had, 3-inch, I thought, it'd be pretty cool to pick up a couple of these flywheels in case I want to make another engine or another version of the finger engine. Just something fun to do. So I grabbed a couple of those. If you ever get a chance to go to a model engine show or the Indiana Model Engine Show, I'm sure there's several others around the US, go check them out. These machines are impressive. With all that said, let's get started with part 2 of the N.A.M.E.S finger engine model engine build. As I said, this is part 2 of the finger engine build. We are on page, if you have this particular drawing diagram, we're on page 4. We need to make 3 more components today. Hopefully we'll get onto the next page as well. But we're going to start with this page. We're going to make the lever, the connecting rod, and the finger tab. And these are the materials I'm going to use. This is going to be my connecting rod. So we have some steel, we have aluminum, and we have a piece of brass. Now, why am I using angle? Well, it's because that's what I have. Now, I have a piece of 1/4-inch aluminum that's 2 inches wide. I just don't want to cut it down to use, 3/4 inch of that material. I feel like that's a bit of a waste. I don't know where I'm going to use this angle iron, angle aluminum anyway. So I'm going to use this for the lever. We need 4.25, or I'll probably just cut it 4 1/4 or 4.5 inches long for the aluminum. Let's mark that. That should give us plenty of room, plenty of material to cut off on either end. So 4.5. We'll do 1 inch wide. All the way down to 4.5. Yeah, there we go. So we'll cut, I think we'll just cut this flat off for our lever. So we'll get that piece cut out, and then we only need 1 inch of the brass and that's for the finger tab. So if you look up here, we're going to do 800 thou. So I'm just going to cut a 1 inch piece of brass 1 by 1. I'll probably just cut 1 inch section of this off and then cut out the piece that I need, and then we'll have more flat stock for later use. The reason that I'm using this angle stuff and not some thinner material is we have some screws. I really want to try to thread and tap some of this material and have some blind screws. We'll see how that goes. It doesn't matter, but it's more for the aesthetics, but I want to do that. So we need 1 inch piece of this brass. Yeah. we'll just cut 1 inch. And I'll probably do the same thing. I'm not going to cut the whole angle out because this will give me a longer bar here if I ever need a 1/4 inch piece of brass. So there's that piece marked up. And then finally, we need our connecting rod. This connecting rod it's got some rounded edges for aesthetics. Again, I think what I'm going to do, this is steel, but again, I mean, I could use aluminum, but I've got this piece of steel that's the right length. I kind of like the rounded edges. Figure out how to do some rounded edges on the end. We'll see how that goes. I think I'm just going to make it 4 inches so we can figure it out later. So let's mark that piece as well. Yeah, there we go. So if we cut that there, we got 4 inches of that to deal with. And now we have our material to cut out. We're going to turn this around now, and we're going to square off the other side. Let's let that dry, and we'll come back and we'll start marking up where we're going to be doing our drilling and tapping and everything else that we got to do. Let's lay these three pieces out. The finger tab, there's not really anything to lay out necessarily other than drilling and tapping for the holes, and I would want those centered. So I think what I'll do is just put a center line on this, and then we can drill and tap where those will be. I think we'll make this piece last. There's no sense in hurrying with this finger tab portion. First thing I think we ought to do is, let's just do the easy one, the connecting rod. This thing, it says almost 300 thou between 2.926. And we can just eyeball this. So it doesn't really say how much on the edge. I just left extra because I want to round the edges. So we'll just kind of eyeball that where those are. That's good enough for the connecting rod. Let's move to the lever. We need to mark this out. We've got a few things going on here. We need to mill this thing down. We'll just use the dimensions that are on here, so let's start marking it out. Let's do the holes first. So this first hole on the end will be a 1/4 inch in and a 1/4 inch down from the top corner. Let's call this our top corner and start marking that. This next hole is 1 3/4 inch in from the end. $375 thou down. That'd be from the top. The recess up here will be 800 thou in, and then we'll worry about the depth later on that. But let's go ahead and mark that. I guess the total length is going to be a little different too. Total length is going to be 4 1/4. So let's actually measure that first. That won't matter. I may just leave it longer. We'll see. And then, but then we need 800 thou. that completes our layout. We've got the angles made. We've got all the measurements drawn out on our layout, and I think we're ready to punch and put a dimple in where we're going to actually make our drill and tap our holes and all of that sort of thing. In addition to having our angles laid out, I'm not sure what the actual angle of these are. There are ways to figure that stuff out. I'm not going to mess with that. These aren't that critical. It's more for aesthetics and functionality. So I'm just going to cut most of this off with the bandsaw, these angles, and then we'll clean them up with the mill. We'll find a suitable angle to mount it up in our fixture plate, and then we'll drill and tap and do everything according to the drawing. I think I will use my disc sander in order to put the rounded edges on my connecting rod. Otherwise, we're ready to start the milling operations. We have our next setup. We're going to mill the relief for the finger tab, the brass tab that we're going to screw on here. Before we put the angles in, it'll be easier to machine this way. I did go back and look at the instructions that I'm working with, and I need to come down 125 thou for the relief, so the finger tab will actually be proud of the top of this, which is fine. I think that'll look really nice. In addition to that, it calls for 800 thou depth of cut, because it'll have some sticking out the back. What I'm going to do is accommodate the actual drawing like I'm supposed to, even though I have about a 1/4 inch of extra material on here that I can mill off later. I'm going to leave that on there just in case I like the looks of it, or if I like the support. I don't know, but I don't need to mill that off quite yet. I'm going to leave it there for now, and we're just going to mill this across. Now, because of the 800 thou, I measured this with my calipers. I need to come over 1 inch 50 thou, which is how much stick out additional material we have, and that will bring us into our 800 thou depth of cut. None of that's critical, it's just for aesthetics, but I want to honor the drawings that I'm working with. Let's get started with this. I need to first touch off the top, mark my z-axis 0, come down 125 thou, and then we're going to bring this thing over 1 inch 50 thou, and then clean it up. We have our relief milled for our thumb piece, finger tab, I guess you would call it. So the next thing we want to do is complete this part, and in order to do that, we need to mill our angles. And I was looking through my angle blocks that I have, and I think I found the ones that I need. This first angle here is, if we line it up to the base, which is square, we are right at 15 degrees. So this is the angle block we're going to use to set this up. And this other one happens to be 20 degrees. If we line that up, well, here's the setup. Let's see if I can get you in there a little bit close to see what's going on. We've got a button stop out here to stop my angle block. I have 2 more button stops in the back to keep it back. That's a 20-degree angle block. And you can see the angle that I'm going for, and I've got it fastened down with two of the clamps, and it's pretty solid. I'm just going to take it slow. This first corner is going to be a little deeper than I want to go, but I don't have any more travel on my y-axis. So that's the setup. We're going to get on with it, mill this first angle, and then we'll flip it over and we'll get this other 15-degree angle milled, and that should complete, for the most part, the lever. catch you up to speed. One thing that I didn't really accommodate for when I was doing my angles, I kind of messed that up according to the drawing, because this piece was supposed to be 3/4 inch wide, but the piece that I had was wider than that. So my angles were off from how they should be, but it doesn't matter. It's really aesthetics. So I'm going to go with this angle, and I went ahead and flattened off a little bit more of this bottom. Really what we're looking for is, once this is on here, it needs to clear. Now I know I may have to take some more off of there in order to get that to clear. So I'm gonna go with this for now, and I might actually sand it and make it rounded along with this piece. You know, maybe what do we have? Maybe that's not big enough. Let me find something like this. And the other thing is, we could always mount it higher on a base plate, make a base plate for this. So that's one thing we're going to do, but I am going to go ahead and round that off and shorten that up a little bit while I got the sander out. This I want to go ahead and mark for some rounded edges. The total length of this rod is 345, somewhere around in there. So if we were to round it to about that area, that ought to look good. Same with this one. That ought to look good as well. So the next thing we want to do is get that sanded. Then we'll figure out what we want to work on next. Here's the little piece that came off of there. I'll throw that in the scrap bin as well. And let's keep moving forward. We've got our connecting rod complete. We just need to clean it up. It's hot. That's much better. Now we have some clearance for this to swivel. May have to take a little more off, but I think we're going to be fine there. And so that's done. That's hot. We'll put that on here. The next thing we need to move on to is the thumb tab. That's going to go on here. So we need to lay that out, get it where we want it to be. And then we need to drill from underneath and tap. Now, I guess I have end mills, so I could probably countersink, but I'm going to try. I don't know if I have any cap head screws this small, but I am going to try to countersink some 440 screws, cap head screws. The rod, the lever, the connecting rod, and now we're going to move on to the finger tab. Well, I have 440 set screws. That's these little itty bitty guys here. These things are small, and I need them to be that small in order to get them to thread and tap through the bottom of the lever. And then also I want to recess. You know, it says to recess in the instructions, and for aesthetics I want to do that as well. But I can't do that with set screws. The problem's going to be I would have to have a thread inside the lever and a thread inside my thumb pad. So I ordered some 440 440 cap head screws. But in the meantime, we can keep moving. I don't want to stop progress just because I'm missing some screws. I could test it with these, but those are on order. We'll get those coming. What we need to do now is lay this out so that we can mount our finger plate. Point 2, so 200 thou in from the end is where the first set screw is going to go. Or through holes, sorry. These are going to be through holes with a recess. So we need to maybe it'd be better if we mark the top of this, because that's where we're supposed to come in from. There we go. Let's let that dry. That's our center line. Let's mark that on the back because this is where we're going to drill. We can see that. The next thing is we got to figure out how far over. We want to go 200 thou over. This drawing is not real clear other than 200 thou between the center line of the first hole. The back side, it doesn't really say. I'm not sure that it matters as long as we get our thumb piece to line up when we screw it in. So we are going to probably come in 200 thou as well. So we'll have 200 thou over and 200 thou in. Maybe we'll do 175. This looks to be a little smaller. I do not see a dimension on here that indicates where this should actually be. Even from this other side, it's just not there. It's not critical, it just needs to line up. It's critical that I need to make it right. So the first thing we're going to do is 200 thou in. So that's going to be 200. Right there. And that's going to be there. So we want to carry that across, and I don't want to try to mount it like this because I won't get it square. I want to mount it this way so I can come down this way. So I need to mark this back side. So if we were to mark that here, you know, let's get a little creative here. What if we use a square? and we mark the end up here. Yeah, and we go 200 thou over from there. That's going to put us right there. So then if we bring this over, that is going to put us right there. And there is our 200 thou. Now, if we bring this here, maybe, there we go. Bring it down. That's where I want it. Maybe. A little tricky to hold. Let's do that. This is, so that is where we're going to drill the first through hole. And then we should come 200 thou over this way, which would put us in there. And to give more meat, I think that's just what I'm going to do. I don't see any reason to make it too complicated. They're pretty small screws, so that's going to be, it's going to be right in there. Yeah, right in there. So we're going to be able to do that right there. Now I do want to punch that, or try to punch that. I know it's a little bit tricky because it's on an angle, but I might be able to get it. It's tricky. Might be better off just trying to drill it, not worry about punching it. All right, let's mount this up and drill these through holes. Now, keep in mind these are going to be 1/8 of an inch to accommodate the 440s. These 440s are 120 thou, and the 1/8 of an inch is 125 thou. So that will accommodate the screws to do a through hole, and then we'll do a counterbore. We'll use an end mill for that. The next thing we want to do is mark layout from our holes here. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can chamfer those a little bit. There we go. That's small. I don't know if that's going to work. Ooh, it is, barely. That worked good. Let's go to this side. I think that's going to work. So now if we put this on here, that lines up nicely. So what we need to do is figure out our center mark, line it up, and then I think I'm going to use a transfer punch for these. And I got a punch that barely fits in there. Well, everybody, I said I'm trying to keep the series down to a minimum, but I think now that I'm working on this, I think it's going to be a 4-part series. This takes a lot of time to work on these parts. I think I'm going to have to remake the thumb. I broke a tap, stupid Harbor Freight tap, so I just ordered a 440 tap, a YG 440 tap, YG1. I've said it before. I know a lot of you are like, you're an idiot. You keep using those Harbor Freight taps. I do. And they keep breaking. I need to just, I don't know. I need a good tap set. It's my fault. Regardless, we're at a point where I'm ready to stop. We made the lever, we made the connecting rod, and we have a finger tab, which I may redo. Actually, I think I can salvage this one. I can flip it over and drill and tap a couple more holes. But regardless, these taps, the threads should work for the 440s. Those Harbor Freight taps are crap. So we're going to retry this with the YG1 taps that I get, and we're going to rethread these. The only thing is I didn't expect this, but there's a couple dimples here. I went 200 thou, but this is a 1/4 inch, so I had 50 thou extra. I didn't think that would occur. I may go 175. If I remake this part, I'll do 175 thou. Regardless, we're making some progress. Get some of this crap out of the way. We got the lever completed. The finger tab is pretty much completed. I'm waiting on my cap head screws to mount it. But I'm going to go ahead and finish that part off camera because you've seen what I'm doing. But that'll go on there like that. It's going to look nice. And then we have our lever, or connecting rod as well. So things are coming along. We have our, first, second, third page done. We've got a lot of parts coming together, and I'm really excited. I want to keep going on this, but I've got some parts on order, so this is a good stopping point for me. I hope you're enjoying the series. I'm really able to use the mill and the lathe. There's a lot of things to make. It's a really fun project. I can see why people are getting into model engine making if they're into hobby machining, because it just gives you an excuse to use these machines. I'm trying to follow these instructions as best I can. They're not 100%, but they're good enough. You can take some liberties with this, but we're making some progress. I'm going to close part 2 of this series out here. This is probably going to be 4-part, like I said. We'll finish up. I'll finish this off camera, but then we'll finish. We got to make some screws next, and we got to make our crankshaft, and that's going to be in the next episode. We'll probably use this, cut a hunk of this steel out for that, and we'll keep going. So the final 4th part is going to be the assembly of everything, and hopefully we have a really nice looking finger engine machine when we're done. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you're enjoying it. If you haven't subscribed, please do, and I hope to see you on the next one.